Well, good evening. Hurricane Sally made landfall this morning near Gulf Shores, Alabama, about 20 miles from the Florida border. The eye of Sally is currently near the Florida-Alabama border, traveling north-northeast at 5 miles per hour. The impact of the storm has been severe, particularly in areas like Escambia and Santa Rosa County, and particularly with regard to flooding. Some areas have received up to 30 inches of rainfall, with more coming down throughout this evening. And even as the storm moves into Georgia, the rain will continue to come down into our rivers to cause more flooding and potentially even necessitate further evacuations. So far, nearly 600 search and rescue missions have been conducted with local sheriff's offices in Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Okaloosa. The state has also assisted in those, as has the Coast Guard. To support these missions, we've activated 500 Florida National Guard soldiers. We have air assets, helicopters, and 50 high water vehicles. Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commissioner also has 50 Special Operations Group members who are also standing by to assist, as does Florida Highway Patrol. They're deploying 60 troopers through their quick response force from both Northeast and Central Florida. We've also gotten some support from Tennessee and Oklahoma, which we appreciate. So when you're looking at water of this nature, people should be very, very careful. It is hazardous. Do not try to go out in there. There could be power lines down in the water. Don't try to drive your car through it. It's something that you could very much regret. So it is potentially in certain areas life-threatening. So protecting life is the number one priority. I know that there's going to be property damage, and that's something that's going to be difficult for people. We're obviously going to be there to help, but the life comes first, and your safety comes first. So that is number one. Number two is we have a lot of people in Northwest Florida that have power out. We have over 130,000 just in Escambia County. We're working closely with the utility companies. They have crews of linemen who are mobilizing. They're not, when you have winds that were 80 to 100 miles an hour. Now as the storm moves, obviously the winds have subsided some, but they're not going to be able to be out there at 30, 40 mile an hour winds. And so we think probably tomorrow morning you'll start to see that, but we understand that that's something that's very, very significant. And because of how important that is, the Department of Emergency Management is deploying 175 generators and 100 pumps into the impacted area to assist with the power outages and with the flooding. That was one of the things that that Jared did was get more of those generators. And I think that was a smart thing to do, and it's paying off. We also have received some reports. There was a long-term care facility that was having difficulty with their generator. There was another with minor flooding in non-patient areas. The Department of Emergency Management, Department of Health responded immediately. The power's on. Flooding is under control in those facilities. We've also had different issues. Escambia County had a water main break last night. They lost communications to the EOC, 911, 911 and dispatched. And so the state has sent folks to help with emergency communications. The Division of Emergency Management is also mobilizing 60,000 gallons of water to provide clean drinking water for those who have been impacted by the main break. And that will arrive later tonight. We also have bridges. Many of the bridges were closed today because of safety. 3 Mile Bridge has a significant section missing, and several barges and other large debris are in the water that may impact other bridges, but they think that the main barge they were concerned about may have been neutralized. But we have bridge inspection teams that are out there helping the counties with inspections and different push operations. Obviously, we want to get the bridges open as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that is done in a safe manner. The most important thing we want people to do is just stay vigilant, listen to your local officials, and be cognizant of the risks that the water poses right now. But even as that water subsides, which we think it probably will, the amount of rain that's being dumped to our north is going to impact places in the Northwest Florida. So you're going to have these rivers that are going to crest. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow, maybe Friday. Maybe even see some of them will happen this weekend. So this is kind of the initial salvo. but there is going to be more that you're going to have to contend with. And so please remain vigilant, particularly if you're in those areas that could be affected. I know that the meteorologist did some models, and some of the rivers that crest, I mean, the water really goes out a significant amount, and so that's important. And also with the flooding, pay attention to boil water notices, and just remember that standing water could be deeper than it seems. Don't let children play in the standing water. You could have a down and active power line that's close by, and it could definitely be life-threatening. If you're safe inside your home right now, then just remain there until the situation improves. For more information, go to floridadisaster.org. We also have updates at Twitter at FloridaCert. You can also go to floridadisaster.org/info. So we really appreciate the folks in Northwest Florida, the emergency responders at the local level, obviously the state and Jared and what they were able to do, having all this ready to go. And we also appreciate the support from the federal partners. We understand the president approved our declaration yesterday, no problem, and we know that they're standing by ready to help as well. I'll be going to Pensacola tomorrow. We'll be surveying some of the damage and meeting with the local officials, and obviously we want to be helpful in any way that we can. With that, take a couple questions.
Governor, do you have a sense of the extent of the damage, and have there been any fatalities?
So as of now, there have been, in the course of responding, I believe, was it Okaloosa that had the two, or is it which county? Santa Rosa. So Santa Rosa identified 2 fatalities, but they don't think it was caused by the storm. We think that these were natural fatalities that happened to be discovered in the course of it. So we don't have, at this moment, any credible report that the storm has caused a loss of life at this point. Obviously, when you have water like this, but I think that's part of the good thing about the quick response in these missions. Now, not search and rescue. Some of these people they may have 6 inches of water in their house and they just want help, and so a lot of them were not necessarily life-threatening, but I know some of them were in some pretty significant situations, and so we really appreciate all the hard work folks are doing to really safeguard life.
Governor, I know the Interstate 10 was closed by FHP earlier due to visibility issues. Are crews able to get into the areas that have been impacted the worst to start doing cleanup, debris removal, and search and rescue? Or?
So search and rescue, yes, we have search and rescue. You'll probably have the utilities will probably be there starting tomorrow morning. And obviously we understand, I mean, when you're talking about dealing with these lines, even as the winds subside from being 80 miles an hour, if you have 30, 40 mile an hour winds, I mean, that makes it very difficult. So that'll be likely be done first thing in the morning. And we understand if you look at the power outages, disproportionately Santa Rosa and Escambia. There are outages in Okaloosa and some of the other counties, but really heavy in Escambia.
Governor, have you heard from the White House today?
Yes, so the White House is, they're there, ready to help. I was also able to chat with Secretary Wolf when I was at the White House for the Abraham Accords, and he assured me that we'd have all the support that we need, and the Coast Guard has been active in helping with the search and rescue. We're going to be with the Coast Guard tomorrow as we tour some of the damage. We'll do an aerial tour around Pensacola and some of the surrounding areas, and so we really appreciate the support. And I'll tell you, just having been through some of these storms, both when I was in the Congress and now as governor, I mean, our Coast Guard does a great job. I mean, they really step up to the plate, so we thank them for their efforts. Yes, sir.
I know that emergency management changed a number of policies to deal with the pandemic as well as a potential hurricane. You know if any of those new policies have been enacted or are being used to try and mitigate the spread of the virus as a hurricane?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually got a trial run of this for Isaias. There was not, of course, wide-scale evacuations, but there were some areas in Palm Beach that did voluntary evacuations. Obviously, the storm really didn't have significant impact there, but so you had individuals that went, they were screened. Some of them were able to do the traditional sheltering. Others were diverted to the non-congregate sheltering, and so that option is here today, and it's being used. Now, with rivers cresting, you may have a situation where there was no need for folks to evacuate in certain parts of Northwest Florida at all up to this point, you may see that need arise over the next couple days. And so that's why we want people to remain vigilant with that. Up and down where these water tributaries and rivers are, very nice. People like to build houses, in those areas, and so that's going to continue to be an issue. But yes, I think Jared's done a really good job. As people come in, they get screened, fever, they go to non-congregate. If they fail some of the questions that are asked, they can go to non-congregate, and obviously, if they're in the normal shelter, they will, they're provided with the PPE in order to wear that. So I think that's been good. And hopefully we won't need to use it much more. Hopefully a lot of people don't need to evacuate going forward. But this is something that is, with the flooding, it's going to continue to be an issue over these next many days. And so people just need to buckle up if you're in those areas, heed the warnings of your local officials. And obviously we're going to be there to help in any way we can.
Any particular rivers that I know Apalachicola River comes down from the flood?
Yeah, I think the pretty much every body of water in Northwest Florida, you said could potentially see. I mean, so any little. I mean, she has a really interesting. Maybe you can put that out online on the Twitter, just so people can see. And this is just a model. They're not saying this has happened yet, but you see the rising, all of those bodies of water, and then how wide some of the flooding goes. So you could be a mile away and still be impacted, if the water is significant enough and it rises enough. So it's a really, really significant event. And when you hear things like historic, catastrophic flooding, and look, the Hurricane Center is not always right about everything. It's a tough business, but they don't choose those words lightly. I mean, that means it's not just going to be, you may have, an inch of water that shows up on your doorstep. I mean, they're seeing flooding like we haven't necessarily seen before. Certainly, I think it's at least at the level that Ivan was potentially, and maybe even more. The wind can be difficult. I mean, we saw that with Michael when you had Category 5. It's kind of like a buzzsaw. But the wind, you had places in Bay County, Panama City Beach, some of those areas, you wouldn't have even known there was a hurricane that had gone through there because it was pretty compact. It went through very quickly, and it wasn't dropping a lot of water. This event, because it's dropping so much, the storm was going 3 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour. Now I think it's up to 5. Just how broad the water affects. And, they say hide from wind but run from water. The water can be very, very damaging. And so hopefully we continue to be able to protect folks, and we have folks, taking the proper precautions. Obviously, the first responders are out there doing a great job, and we get through that, which is the most important. But there is going to be a lot of property damage. I mean, when you see downtown Pensacola and you see 3 feet of water there, that's going to affect probably every business that's in downtown Pensacola. There's just no two ways about it. All right, well, we will be out there tomorrow, have another report, but I just want to thank everyone for all they've done. We've got a lot of great folks out there, and this was the type of thing where we knew there was going to be a lot of water. We were hoping that the track was more that Louisiana, Mississippi, but, Jared did a great job. We had everything staged because, you don't know, and we thought that we would get impacts no matter what. It wobbled. More impact in Northwest Florida than we had hoped for, but I think all the folks there were ready, and from the local folks all the way up to the federal folks, and we're going to continue to be there and help the folks on the ground. So thanks, everybody.